What up guys, it's Dragon Ball for Life here today, and I'm back with another video. Now today's video I want to talk about how to beat characters with the ability of power mimicry. Now power mimicry is basically the ability to copy other people's, superpowers and abilities. Now it really depends, because sometimes people, when they talk about copying other people's abilities, they usually talk about techniques, but to a more extreme extent, there's abilities where people have a superpower where they can copy other people's powers in general as a whole, not just like techniques, their abilities and everything that comes with it, which is far more deadly and far more of a powerful superpower to have. Now, how do you beat somebody with the ability of power mimicry where they can copy your moves or your powers? Well, there is actually a couple of ways to beat them, even though it does sound quite OP. If I'm being honest, this possibly one of the most OP superpowers or abilities to have, if you can copy somebody else's abilities, and especially to the highest level if you can do it. Because let's say you're against somebody who has reality warping. If you can copy their ability, then you can warp reality too. So it doesn't matter if they can warp reality. Now you can do the same thing against them. Or if somebody has psychic powers where they try to psychically attack you, you can copy their psychic powers and then fight back. So it's always a great equalizer in any fight to have the ability to copy other people's powers. But there's sometimes more rules and steps to certain characters where there isn't as much as to other characters, and depending on what level and what type of power mimicry ability they have, it can be far more deadly or dangerous depending on which type, obviously. So let's go through some of them. Now, like I said, I mentioned earlier that there's some people that have the ability to copy techniques, like characters in Naruto with a Sharingan. They can use their Sharingan to copy ninjutsus and taijutsu and all these other moves and use it for their own selves. But that's a little different. That's copying people's techniques. That's just mimicry abilities in general, where you basically copy stuff. Power mimicry is a lot different. Mimicry itself is basically you copy a move. You can see a move once and copy it, kind of like like I said, characters from the Uchiha from Naruto or Taskmaster. But power mimicry is far more deadly. This is something more akin to a Meizo from DC, where he can see other people's, who have superpowers and copy their superpowers and use it for himself. So that's a lot different than, copying somebody's technique. Copying somebody's technique could be very, powerful, but being able to copy somebody's, superpowers, and depending if it's onto their level or not, that's also very dangerous. Now, we also see this kind of bit in My Hero Academia with one of the kids in the first, I think, tournament they had. The kid had the ability to do it. So it really depends on the level of power, control or mastery they have over it. Because some people that do have power mimicry can, one, they either have a time limit, or two, they have a limited amount of people that they can copy, especially at a time. Those are more on the low level end. So yeah, some people might have a time limit, 5 minutes. They can copy whatever powers, but within they can only have 5 minutes, or they they lose it and they have to power. There's probably a cooldown period, which isn't that dangerous if you can survive it. Or there's people that have what's the thing called? They have one where they can only take a limited amount of superpowers. So if you gang up on them and have multiple people fighting them, then they can't copy everybody's powers. They can only copy a few, and they will have to switch back and forth, which would kind of put them at a disadvantage. That's also kind of a way to beat somebody with the ability to copy other people's techniques, is to have multiple people using multiple different techniques at once, or do multiple different techniques really quick, and that person is trying to copy them, but they don't have enough time. So you can basically overwhelm them with that and then take them down. So that's also another way to do another form of it, where you have a certain amount. And then another thing, which is, I don't know if this is a different type or maybe just a weakness, but a lot of them do have a problem where depending on what other power they go to transition to that they copied, there is they can only do it with one. Let's say they copied somebody who has super speed, and then they copied somebody with telekinesis. Now they're fighting in super speed, but they need to use telekinesis. From switching over from super speed to telekinesis itself. And doing this can be very useful in certain situations, but if you have to change up your powers, you can only use one at a time, so you have to go back and forth between different powers, it can be very detrimental, because then somebody can trick you or get a drop on that person, that's switching between, because they can't use the other powers at the same time. So that can also be another hindrance on that power itself. But then we get to the highest level, which the only real character that I've seen that did it to this level, and there might be some other ones, but for me, from what I've seen, was Amazo from DC Comics, where he was shown to, be able to copy Superman, Green Lantern, Flash, Wonder Woman. So he copied all their moves, and not only was he able to copy it, but he also had no time limit. He had no limit on how many he could copy at once. And the third thing was he didn't have to transition between them. Once when he copied them, they're all amalgamation into one, so you can use them all. So that's what he could do. Now, that is quite powerful, but it will take a little more than that to be even more powerful. And what I mean is, if you can copy their abilities or superpowers, that's quite impressive. But here's the thing: just because you can copy somebody's superpowers does not mean that your copied version of it is on the same level as that person's, and that's when a lot of problems can happen. Now, if there's a character who can not only copy those abilities but match those people's abilities that they copied, then yeah, that's going to make them completely dangerous. That, I think, is the top level, because now there's no time limit. There's no limit of how many you can take. There's no limit between having to switch, because you can use them all at once. And now, there is no limit to how powerful you are. You can match the level of power of the other person's that you are able to copy, which is very OP. Now, going through the lower levels is a lot easier, especially the time one. If somebody has a time limit, you can just wait out the time and survive it. If they copy your moves, you would know how to use, or your superpowers, you would know how to use your superpowers more efficiently, because you've been using it the entire time, so it'll be easier for you. And even if they just copy it and they're matching you, all you have to do is basically hold off. So wait until the time limit goes out, and then take them out and kill them. And then we have the other one where it's like basically they can only take a select few. You can have multiple people there with different superpowers, or you can whip out multiple different superpowers at once if you have like more than one. Because a lot of people have like super strength, speed, durability, all these other ones, so they can use multiple of them at once, and then that person can only use one of them. So you can basically beat them that way. And then the other one with switching over, that's also pretty easy, because if they have to switch between the powers, even if they can copy countless different powers, they will basically need a time to switch over from there. So you put them in a situation where they need to switch to another one, but that's where you like put them in a trap and beat them. Or whenever they try to switch over their powers to another one, you time it out and you get them and you take them out. And then for like the Mazo level, where he can copy all his abilities and do it all together and do that, basically you would need to be kind of they call the Swiss Army knife of superheroes, where you have an entire amalgamation of superpowers like super strength, speed, durability, flight, energy projection, be able to form barriers, and have mental powers. So if you have all those powers, even though that person can copy all these other powers, there's still like most powers are very redundant, so it's very limited amount of powers they can get, unless they got some ridiculously high level power like matter, reality warping, and psychic illusion casting and all these other ones. Then it'll be very difficult. But usually they will be having more low level and low end, superpowers like super strength, speed, all these more common ones. That if you can have all those, then you can basically match them. And like I said, just because they can copy it does not mean that they can exactly match your level of power. So even if they copy super strength, that doesn't mean their super strength is on your level. If you're stronger than them, you can basically beat them. So yeah, they might have a lot of these other powers, but they're not as good as you are in the specific areas. And if they have the ability where not only could they copy all this, but also copied it to the highest level, if I'm being honest, I don't think there's any real way to beat somebody like that. If somebody can not only copy, as many amount of powers as they want, no time limit, no need to use one or the other when you're transitioning, and also you can be as strong as the people that you're copying. That could be very dangerous. So the only way to beat them is just be stronger than them. That's literally the only way. And I know that kind of sucks to hear, because these videos are meant to find creative and clever ways to beat them, but this way is not that. This one is just like, it's just too OP. So the only way to beat them is be stronger than anybody else that they are able to copy. And if they copy your abilities, well, you will be able to use your superpower and your techniques a lot better than they are. So even if they do have, the same level of power, they will not have the same mastery of those powers to the extent that you do, especially if you can overwhelm them and stuff. Also, like I said, the other power where you have multiple powers that they take, you can kind of overwhelm them and stuff. But yeah, I would say basically be very strategic, and you have to be very powerful and have a very big amalgamation of countless different other powers to beat people like this. So yeah, if I'm being honest, this is one of the most OP abilities to have and hardest to beat, because unlike those other ones, those are a lot more simpler. Now you can have like matter manipulation and do that, or if you have like some ability where you have some power where your powers cannot be copied or some shit like that. Like have an anti-copy of power, or like because like have something that is only for you, like specifically set to you. Like let's say this, like you have the power of Hellfire. Now they can copy Hellfire, but the thing about copying Hellfire is this Hellfire will damage anybody that isn't demonic or like has some demonic energy or DNA. So yes, they can copy the power, but the power also requires a DNA or certain gene connecting to it, and this will destroy them. So that can also work, because this is not like stealing powers. This is not directly stealing powers. It's just copying the powers. So you still have your powers, but they're able to do the same thing you are. Whereas the other one, it's basically you're taking the powers away, which I can do a video about that too, about beating people who can steal people's powers. But like if they can copy your powers and stuff, you would need some unique power that only can work for you, and that if they try it, it'll hurt them. So like I said, like if you have like some demonic of the characters like has some demonic genes and stuff and uses Hellfire, but whoever uses that Hellfire that doesn't have that DNA will be burned to death with it. That will basically be a way to beat them. So they can copy their power of the Hellfire, but they wouldn't have the DNA to match. So that Hellfire would basically burn them up and kill them. Because you're not copying their DNA, or because the ability to copy superpowers is not copying their DNA or their genetic traits and stuff. It's just copying their superpowers and their abilities that they can use. But if they have a superpower and ability that basically harms anyone that's not a part of this particular thing, then that can also work against them. So you could do something like that. I think that's a pretty good way to beat something like that. But like I said, mostly it's pretty hard. You would basically just need to be like, you can beat something like that. You just need to have like be a Swiss Army superpowered being where you have many different multiple powers that are very common. If you have all those, then they will basically, all the other powers they have will just be the same as you. So it doesn't really matter unless they are copying some ridiculously OP powers like matter manipulation, reality warping, them having psychic abilities to psychically attack you, read your mind, and also control your mind. Then it's like, okay, that's too OP. You don't know how to beat it unless you have like maybe another way. I guess you could do it is if you have like some type of resistance or nullification to all those powers. Like psychic powers don't work on you, reality warping powers don't work on you, matter manipulation powers don't work on you. But it's very hard to find a character that's that powerful that all those type of things don't work on them at all. So it's just kind of ridiculous. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for next time.